Hello and welcome to a new episode of A Game of Two Halves, a sports show that is created, produced and directed by third year sports journalism students here at the University of South Wales. My name is Mackenzie Thomas and I'm your host for today's show. In this episode we will hear about the growth of women's football in Wales, some exciting news for LGBTQ plus sports in the country, and interview James Maley about Cardiff City Ladies' recent rebrand, and a student on the course talks about his time studying here and his best experiences so far. First, it's time to look at the sporting headlines in Wales right now. In football, Cardiff City snatched a stunning 2-1 victory against Ipswich Town at the Cardiff City Stadium. Two injury time goals from Ryan Wintle and Calmo Dowda, completing an amazing turnaround and secured the 3 points. Swansea meanwhile lost 1-0 to Bristol City, ending their 3-game unbeaten run. The poor performance will not have their fans looking forward to the highly anticipated South Wales derby next weekend at the Swansea.com Stadium. With Cardiff City winning their last 4 games, they will be decided with the momentum heading into Saturday's game as they look to complete their first ever league double over the Swans. In League 2, Wrexham backed up last weekend's 4-0 hammering of Accrington Stanley with a comfortable 3-1 win away at Morecambe as they continue their chase for automatic promotion. However, Newport County couldn't help their fellow Welsh side as they lost 1-0 away to Stockport County, who 1 place above Wrexham in the table. In rugby, Wales remain winless in the Six Nations, as they lost 24-45 to France at the Principality Stadium. Despite the majority of the game being competitive, the French largely dominated the second half, scoring 2 tries in the last 15 minutes to secure the win. If Wales fail to beat Italy on Saturday, then they will finish bottom of the group for the first time since 2003. Now for today's first story of the show, we hear from Newport City women's manager Jason Tahana. He talks about how his time at the club and how the women's game is improving in Wales. Ed Morgan has a story.
Well, I've been here about 13 months. I took over end of January last year. Improvement-wise, we've recruited loads of players during the summer. When I first came, we only had the 1 team. We now have a development team as well as a first team. First team's predominantly the same players as last season. I think it was about 3rd from bottom we finished last season, but we're chasing basically the league. Narrowly lost to Cardiff City in the 19s a couple of weeks ago in a really good game. But the girls who've been here from last season, they've all improved massively. They've done extra away from the training ground, and the whole club has benefited from it basically. Yeah, so obviously last season we didn't have a development team, so a lot of the players who were sort of in and around the squad weren't getting as much game time and what have you. But for me, development team is hugely important because we've got a lot of youngsters, 16, 17, 18, 19, who are getting experience playing with some of the older players, more experienced players who are sort of late 20s, early 30s and what have you. And the development players are there to push the first team. So obviously if development players bang in form, then obviously they're putting pressure on the first team to basically improve them as well. So yeah.
And lastly, after obviously England won the Euros in 2022, and more women presenters on the football and on programmes of sports TV, I would say that can help encourage women to get into football? Yeah,
I mean, it's all about role models, isn't it? I mean, I think the whole infrastructure of women's football, and especially girls' football, the work that's been done over the last sort of 4 years has helped that as well. Because there's loads of girls' teams. I mean, I was coaching grassroots, and I had 2 girls playing for me, and back sort of 4 or 5 years ago I found it really difficult because I was doing an academy team at the time, but I find it really difficult to try and find an advanced training centres for them to develop because they were special players. But since then, FAW have introduced their own academy. Newport Schools have brought in a girls' Newport Schools team. One of the girls, Katie, she's playing for Newport Schools and gone on to Welsh Schools. And Ariana, who was training with us today, has gone on to the FAW Academy representing Wales, and she's doing extra training with us. So it's great to see that wasn't there, that infrastructure wasn't there 4 or 5 years ago, but now it is. And there's lots of grassroots girls teams coming along, and they're getting the proper training and what have you. So standards are going to improve massively over the next few years, but it's encouraging because now they're getting sort of noticed, and they're getting more funding in place and what have you. And it's not only the senior women's team, but the girls following them. It's huge.
We now have an interview to show you with Iestyn Thomas, his 2nd year on the course. He talks about his time studying so far and his best experiences.
So can you please tell me your name and the course you're studying?
My name is Yeston Thomas. I'm a second year sports journalism student.
So Yeston, why did you decide to study sports journalism at the USW?
Well, I always kind of had a passion for sport. I was quite big into rugby as a youngster. Wasn't very good at rugby, admittedly. I couldn't really catch much. And then I just started writing then when I was about 15, 16, just writing blog pieces which would go onto my own blog website. And yeah, it ended up here at USW.
What sort of opportunities have you had since coming at USW?
Well, there were some really good opportunities. Well, previously, before I joined USW, there was the Welsh Premiership podcast, which was created by USW sports journalism students, and you had the opportunity of going to cover Welsh Premiership matches, and it was a really good experience before coming onto the course. And then obviously on the course itself, I've had opportunities with Pontypridd RFC in the Welsh Premiership as well. You know, filing match reports for them, and it's all good fun.
So you mentioned Pontypridd FC. You also had a bit of work experience with Wales Online. Can you tell me a bit about that and how that came about?
Yeah, so I spent the week with Wales Online in November. It was a really exciting time, you know, just a week working with professional journalists, and especially rugby journalists who have been there and have done that. So it was really good to write a few pieces myself to get published onto Wales Online, and obviously learn from top journalists.
What sort of area of journalism would you like to go down?
I think previously would have been written work, and obviously once you get through the first year of the course and start your second year, you kind of get into more different things like graphics, like, you know, videography and you know, pieces of the camera and TV packages and things like that. So I was quite hell-bent on it being written work and written pieces, but I think there's still plenty of time for me to make my mind up on that.
Lastly, what's your favourite moment you've had over the last 2 years?
That's a good question. Probably being in the press boxes at Principality Stadium, at the Swansea.com Stadium watching rugby. Unfortunately, the results basis for the Welsh teams those particular days haven't gone too well. So it's probably watching the Ospreys against the Scarlets while on placement at Wales Online, and yeah, it was all a real good experience to be there.
Our second story is a feature with Charlotte Galloway from Wales's first LGBTQ+ football club, the Cardiff Dragons. She talks about her recent trip to Antwerp for Wales's bid to host the 2027 Euro Games in Cardiff.
You were recently in Antwerp for the bid to host the 2027 Euro Games in Cardiff. Can you talk a little bit about how your time was there and how the bid went?
Yeah, so I guess the journey for that had started for me around a year ago when we were in Antwerp. It was for the annual General Assembly for something called the EGLSF, which is the European Gay and Lesbian Sports Federation. And I went to the previous AGA, as we call it, AGA, in Munich the year before. And that was because Lou Engelfield, who's the director of Pride Sports, had asked me to go along and just kind of meet people there, introduce myself, and maybe let a couple of people know that it would be nice for Cardiff to host the Euro Games. And since then, myself, Lou, and Jess Williams have been putting this bid together, like for the last, in our free time for the last year, for Cardiff to host the Euro Games. And then at some point throughout the year, we found out that Munich, who have this huge organisation of like hundreds and hundreds of people in LGBT sports clubs just in Munich, we're also putting a bid together to host the Euro Games in 2027, same year as what we wanted. So that really added the pressure. And when we got to Antwerp, I remember meeting the delegates from Munich. There were 3 of us, and well, plus another couple of people, whereas they had like 12 people, all in special t-shirts and stuff. And I just remember feeling so anxious, seeing them like, that's the enemy, that's the competitor, but actually we all spoke with each other and we presented our bids on the Saturday. And then for the dinner in the evening, actually it was sort of Team Pride Sports Cymru and Team Munich who were talking to each other over dinner and making friends. And I think it's because we had that shared experience of like, this was a very stressful day and we've just put in loads of work for this day over the last year or two, and we both find out tomorrow which way it goes. And in the end, we won the vote on the Sunday, but it was a very long morning waiting for that item on the agenda to come along. And Munich were just fantastic, like such a high quality sort of competition for us as well to go up against. So credits to them, and like I feel kind of sad for them that they lost, but also so excited that we can be bringing a Eurogames to the UK for the first time, and it's perfect that it's in Wales. Yeah, it's massive. Wales has not seen anything of this scale for LGBTQ+ people ever. Probably officially, well, I mean, outside of prides and stuff. In the rest of the UK, as I say, it's never hosted a Eurogames. And I think as well, one amazing thing about the Eurogames is that it's not bound by the same criteria that sports like swimming and rugby put on their sort of entrants and applicants. So you can have people coming along in self-ID from a gender point of view, and competing in their gender, whether they're non-binary or trans, and it's really embraced, and that's an amazing thing that the Eurogames welcomes. And I think it sends a really powerful message to a lot of transphobic people in the UK that, hey, there's demand here for people to compete in this way and to go to events like this. Like, we're literally expecting 5,000 people to come along from over Europe. So I hope it sends a really big message to people who send us angry messages on the internet.
Now, I'm delighted to be joined in the studio alongside James Maley from Cardiff City Ladies. James, thanks for coming in today. Chat about the rebrand. You've just rebranded yourselves to Gwalior United. Can you talk us through how that came about?
Yeah, absolutely. So the club was taken over in the summer, and as part of that takeover, want to rebrand. It's underpinned by the club's values of unity, excellence, and engagement. So we're hoping to unite people behind the club, acknowledging the heritage of Wales and of the club as the only Welsh team playing in the English Pyramid in the women's game. And then in terms of the excellence, we're hoping that the rebrand will allow us to attract Welsh businesses. We've recently signed a shirt sponsorship deal with Go Compare, and we're hoping the rebrand will help us propel, supported by the whole of Wales, ourselves up the divisions towards the WSL.
You've had some great work on behind the scenes, as you mentioned there. Last weekend, of course, you had over 1,100 fans there for the game. How big is that for the community as well?
No, I think that's absolutely huge. Teams in our league don't get that, and we could have actually had more. We completely sold out the stadium, which was incredible, and the support was absolutely phenomenal. We're playing a team top of the league. We were lucky enough to go a goal ahead, and the noise was absolutely incredible. And I think it is underpinned by our engagement with the community. The players had been going out into local teams across South Wales for 2 weeks leading up to the game, and after the game they stayed behind for must have been about half an hour, 45 minutes, making sure every single player there had the signatures of signed every single supporters player cards or shirts. And we always allow under 16s in for free. So again, we're trying to just get the community behind us and get everyone to embrace us if we can.
And finally, what's the ambition now going forward for the club?
Yeah, so at the start of the season we're in a bit of a relegation battle, but yesterday we won and we secured our survive in the league. So next season, with the support behind us, we're hoping to kick on and push for promotion.
Brilliant stuff. Thank you very much, James.
Thank you.
That's all we had time for today, unfortunately. Big thanks again for James coming into the studio to talk to me. Really appreciate it, and we hope you enjoyed everything you've seen so far on the show. Make sure you tune in next time, where we'll be looking at community sport clubs in Wales. Here's a look at what you can expect.
The opportunities in Welsh means that potentially I might be twice as employable as somebody who doesn't speak Welsh.
We're flying the flag for South Wales, or for Wales as a whole.
Even just playing a sport in a wheelchair gives you a new outlook on things.
In terms of the women's front, it's probably the most exciting thing that's happened kind of all year in the cricket.
Forward to now in the next episode from the VT we just seen. Big thank you again for James coming and everyone behind the scenes for the support throughout the week to get this project underway. We hope you enjoyed this afternoon, and goodbye.